Okay, this video is the last method for dividing polynomials. So this is long division, and you only want to use long division when your divisor is a binomial, but it starts with a number instead of just starting with x. You cannot do synthetic division if it doesn't start with just an x term. Notice, synthetic division requires it to be a binomial that starts with just x. Okay, whereas long division, you can start with 2x, you can start with x squared, you can have anything, it just needs to be two terms. All right, so the first thing we want to do is make sure that it's in standard form. So when I look at this, I notice that I'm missing a variable. So I'm going to rewrite this problem, and I'm going to fill in a 0 for the variable in the exponent that I'm missing. So I have the first term, which is negative 4x cubed. The problem is I'm missing the next term, which would have an x squared. Up here, I don't have an x squared. So I'm going to put a 0 in for that term. You need to have a 0 to hold the place value for the x squared term. The next term down for that should just have an x, which we have. And then the last one should always be your number. All right, so now I have all my terms, and we filled in or put a 0 for anything that was missing. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and set up our division. So we're dividing our divisor. In this case, this is what you're dividing by, so it goes on the outside. We're going to put him out here. So 2x plus 3. All right, now we're ready to start the division. This works just like normal dividing, except for now you have variables. So step number 2, divide the first term by the x term on the outside. So we're really only concerned with the outside x here. So I'm going to put a box around it every time we get to this step because it makes you focus on just the numbers that are in the box. So I want to divide negative 4x cubed by 2x. So it's kind of similar to what we did here. Okay, so I can divide the numbers. Negative 4 divided by 2 will give me a positive 2. Negative 2, sorry. All right, then in order to get from just 1x to 3 x's, I need 2 more x terms. So I'm going to add x squared up here. All right, remember the goal is to turn this term, the outside term, into this one. So in order to get from a positive 2 into a negative 4, I need to multiply by negative 2. So negative 2 times 2 will give me a negative 4. In order to get from 1x, remember if you don't see an exponent, it's a 1. In order to get from 1x to x cubed, I need 2 more x's. So now what we're going to do is to multiply. So we're going to distribute the term that we put on the top, multiply it by the divisor. And this you actually do with both terms. So whatever you put up here, this time was negative 2x squared. Multiply it by this term, then multiply it by this. So negative 2x squared times 2x, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. X squared and x to the first power, when we multiply them, we add the exponents. So I get x to the third power. I'm not done. I have to distribute this also to the second term. So 3 times negative 2x squared will give me negative 6, because negative 2 times 3. And then since this term has an x squared, I will end up having an x squared. You know you did something wrong if the first term doesn't match and the variable under the second terms do not match. That's how you know you forgot something. All right, now we draw our line. before we're able to add, because we're subtracting, you have to change the signs in this row of numbers that you multiply to get. So everything in this one, we're subtracting. And whenever we subtract, that's the same thing as multiplying by a -1. So we go through, we change the subtraction sign to a plus, and then we change the sign of 4, and we change the sign of 6. So the first term should cancel. If it doesn't, there's something wrong. For the second term, we just add by following the signs. So 0 plus 6 gives me 6x squared. And so I will bring down the next term. Just like we started out this one, we're now starting the process all over again. So I'm going to put the box around 6x squared. Now, what do I need to multiply my box term out here, 2x, by to get a 6x squared? Well, 2 times 3 will give me 6, and it's positive, so I put plus 3 up here. All right, now I got to look at the variables. I only have 1x here, but we have 2 here. So what do I need to multiply this 1x by to get an x squared? Well, I have 1 here. I need 2, so that means I need 1 more x. This is also a way to check your work. The variables here should match. The numbers do not have to match. They just so happen to match here, but they don't have to. But if you are multiplying and you put an x squared here, this is how you know you're wrong, because the variable on top should match the variable at the bottom. So that's the easy way to kind of cheat in a way and kind of help yourself out. All right, so now we multiply. Remember, after we divide, we figure out right here, we divide by the first term. Now we have to distribute the term to the outside. So what we just wrote up there was the 3x. We're multiplying that term times both of these. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times 3 is 9x. So remember, we're subtracting here. So when we have a minus sign in front of two terms, that means we have to change this sign, write the opposite here, and change this sign as well. Don't forget to change the sign on the first term as well. The first one should cancel, which it does. 6 minus 6 is 0. And then we do the math here. So this would be negative 6x. And then I bring down my next term. And we start the process over again. So negative 6 is my box term. Once again, box goes with box. So I'm trying to turn my 2x here into a negative 6x. Well, what am I missing? I don't need an x term here. I just need to multiply 2 times something to get a negative 6, which would be a negative 3. And notice that since this is a number, it goes over the number term. The numbers should not be the same up here, but they should be over their corresponding term. So negative 3 times a positive 2x will give me negative 6x. Negative 3 times a positive 3 will give me negative 9. Remember, before we add, we have to change the sign. So I will change this to a plus sign. I will change my negative 6 to a positive 6. And then I will change this negative 9 into a positive 9. All right, this term cancels as it always does, and like it did in the previous. And then negative 15 and a positive 9 will give me a negative 6. This is my remainder. So when we come up here, in order to write it as a remainder, it's going to be a fraction. So I will write -6 over this outside term. So 2x plus 3. So this at the top is my answer. -2x squared plus 3x minus 3 minus 6 over 2x plus 3. And that's long division. All right, this is probably the method you want to avoid using because it requires so many steps. And if you make one problem, one error, then you end up getting the problem wrong. But you have no other choice but to use this method if you're dividing by a term that has a number in the front, okay? If not, please stick with synthetic. Look at the work. Much shorter work here than what we did here.